I'm not really sure why we chose Mildura as the first stop on our round Australia filming adventure, but I'm glad we did. If you've seen the first video in our series, you'll know that this is a film about a film that never got made. But if this is your first time with us, back in 2013, our crew of 5, 2 Australians, our Chinese employers and a translator from Hong Kong, nearly died coming back from a shoot in the Australian desert. Now, nearly a decade later, there's talk of a sequel. But first, I've been asked by Madam Sue, our executive producer, to revisit old footage like this. The 5 of us driving into the town of Mildura on a Saturday evening in the winter of 2013. None of us had any idea what awaited us on that journey, just as I don't know what will emerge from this video. If you're not familiar with Australia, not only is it huge, but the distances between towns are equally enormous. It took pretty much a whole day for us to drive the 544 kilometres between Melbourne and Mildura. We always knew it would be like that though. Long days on the road, cheap motels, editing the footage on a laptop, all that kind of stuff. But luckily for us, there was a really healthy catering budget. Case in point, night 1, Stefano's, which, as you can see, was a pretty upmarket joint and totally not what you'd expect from small town Australia.
生日快乐！哇！
今天是2013年的7月6号，也是我们中华电视摄制组第2次到米珠拉来，进行拍摄。今天也是刘爱星的生日啊，61周岁的生日啊。我们摄制组在这里晚餐，祝他生日快乐！生日快乐！生日快乐！谢谢！
And the very next morning, bright and early, we're on location. The brief? To pretty much film everything. For me as director and Eddie our camera guy, this meant being switched on, always looking for opportunities to shoot, even if we knew it was probably never going to make the cut. Like this morning, in a place called Redcliffs. Nothing special, but film it anyway. You never know. And here it is, years later, being used in a film that none of us saw coming. It's strange. You set out to tell one story and you end up telling another. The characters are the same, the footage is old, but somehow it looks different. It's as if you add on 10 years and you can see something that you never saw before. Like this guy, Laguerre, or Mr. Lier to give him his formal title, husband to Madame Sue, and one of the biggest, loudest characters you could ever wish to meet. He was our lightning rod, our prankster. For the rest of us, roaming Australia was more like work. For him, it was more like a day out. By the time we ended up here, Laguerre had already played a starring role.
1, 2, 3.
Often by doing things like this, just rocking up and talking loudly to people who have absolutely no idea what he's saying.
1, 2, 4了。1，1，1，2，3。OK。说得很标准。好啊 ，Number 1。你好。你好。你好。你好。你好。你好。哇。你是老工人呢。
Madame Sue and Laguerre both still have pretty non-existent English, just like my Mandarin actually. But that never stopped him. And as you can see, people really warm to him and some kind of understanding happens. Not literal or precise, clearly, but you know, there's a kind of warmth and connection here, which is kind of what this whole project is about. Okay, so I'm not trying to downplay the language thing. Trying to make TV with people that you can't speak to is not the easiest thing in the world. There's only so far you can get with boyish charm and sign language. But that's where the translator comes in. Does Johnny plan to understand that he wants to go and have lunch and coffee somewhere, and can he take him somewhere really nice?
就是你要让他明白你那个喝咖啡啊，休息一下那个。
我说咱休息一下。
Christy was our everything girl. Translating, subtitling, operating the boom, hauling gear, booking accommodation, keeping Eddie and I in line, and, when required, playing her part in the self-documenting weirdness of it all. Even if it sometimes meant trying to interpret the uninterpretable.
Subi apple? What's that? Bob's your uncle? You beauty. This very good. Is it something like good on you? Is it?
I mean, we're kind of teasing her here, and maybe she knows that, but she also knows it's TV and that it's all kind of fake, so she just rolls with it. She was actually really good like that.
Should we right, mate? It's quite difficult to understand. As an assistant between a producer and a Miss Su, our chairperson, sometimes I have to translate to them in both language, because our chairperson, she can't speak very well English, and our producer, he don't know Chinese, so I'm the middle person. So sometimes it's a big challenge for me as well. You know, in Chinese, it's easy for me because I studied Chinese for a long time, and this is my mother tongue, and I understand. But when I try to translate it, I think the vocabulary is so limited for me, and sometimes it's just broke here. I don't know what I should say to make the sentence make sense and express my ideas.
Without Christy, you can't go into detail. So really you need to have a good translator and someone who probably really understands the situation.
In case you haven't worked it out yet, the blonde Aussie guy next to Christy, that's Eddie. Not just the cameraman, but the producer, editor, sound designer, tech whiz, you name it. Without Eddie, none of the magic happens. If Madame Sue was the architect, Eddie was the builder. He was also our nominated driver, except on this day when he was in the passenger seat, filming this. But more of that later. It's funny, I think about that building metaphor, and I can't help but wonder if we're renovating a house or knocking it over and starting all over again, or maybe even just picking through the rubble looking for clues. It's like revisiting an old journal. You open up to a random page and, oh my God, it's in another language. In the next video, the Roaming Australia road crew ditches the Land Cruiser for a steam train. It's kitsch, it's cute, it's light entertainment. Insert breathlessly excited forward cell right here. Oh yeah, television baby.